This is with Salvatore Dali at the opening of the museum, Huntington and Hartford Museum on 59th Street, but it's no longer there. This was the cover of the New York Times when Warhol was shot, and that was the first time he was going out. That was 1968. This is me as Cedar Barra, someone did this. This is done by a great photographer called Philip Holzman. This is me kissing Edward Ruchet for 11 hours. And then different thing. Fame, everything is good. I mean, whether you're wealthy, if you're wealthy, that's very good. It depends how you use your wealth. Same thing with fame. There's nothing wrong with fame, but what do you do with fame, or why are you happy to be famous? Is it only because it's you're vain, or because fame opens the door? And that is true that fame opens a lot of doors. Well, it's good to have a look. Actually, when I came to the US, the first person I met when I came off the boat was Salvatore Dali, and in the 50s, and at the time he was the most famous or the most publicized artist, and Warhol wanted to have that seat. And Dali had a look, everybody knows he had those mustaches, astrological sign is Taurus, so it was very apropos. And so you have to have a look. Dali had an ocelot, he had a cane, he dressed wonderfully with gold embroidery vest. And so Warhol took a lot from Dali, and also Warhol created a look. What was Warhol look? Black and white, that incredible wig that was, make you older, but therefore you never age, and then black leather, so very black and white. And when you saw Andy Warhol in a newspaper, it was a black and white image, but then if you saw him in the street, it was that same black and white image. So you have to have a look. So as ultraviolet, I'm supposed to dress in violet, which is okay. I'd rather do this than to wear brown or spinach green or yellow. And in my heyday, I had violet hair and so forth. So what is to be famous? Well, I don't know. In the 60s, we were always out networking. Nowadays, I just don't feel like. In art, again, you have to probably do a scandalous artwork. And if you do, the press is going to cover it, and that could be, stepping stone on being famous. But I mean, eventually the work has to be good, and it has to stand by itself, because you can't sustain fame if there's nothing attached to it. Okay, so maybe this one. I love this one. It's an old hard drive, which is about messages again, and on it I put a heavenly messenger. I create frame. In Nice I have a studio, and it's really a framing shop. So I put 1 frame, 2 frames, 3 frames together. This was an old washboard, glass, which I took apart, and I found that frame in the street, and I thought that was pretty interesting. It's probably papier mâché, but I painted it in silver. That's a little theater about angel. They come in, they go out, ministering angel. As I said, I used to paint a lot of angel in my heyday. But you have to. This is the age of communication, of the web, messengers, and hence all of my work. Like for instance, it's over there. Maybe you'll tour after my computer, where I put a heavenly messenger and a technological messenger. Why? Because this is the era of communication, of the web, of messages. We are bombarded with messages. And I think that angelo in Greek, is a messenger. Angels deliver messages. So what best than to put together a heavenly messenger and a technological messenger? Like those here, this is a hard drive, which is so beautiful with an angel on top of it. And Malraux, French Minister of Culture, said many, many years ago, the 21st century will be spiritual or will not be. And I think we are at that crossroad where, technology can destroy us or save us. And angels also, I think, have a role to play, because they are part of those messengers. And I think there's also an invasion of angels. Maybe not everybody sees them, but this is the era of angel, which is also the apocalyptical age of revelation. Angel reveal messages. I believe that, this is the nuclear era, which is the apocalyptical era, which doesn't mean it's a sheer catastrophe. In the book of Revelation, and people should read it and study it, there's some good and bad news. And the good news for the believer is that Jesus Christ will come again, and he will come in a legion of angels. And I believe we are nearing that time. I don't have a date, but angels are here, and they're part of that communication. And I have some other work there where I say the Messiah is the message. I disagree with Marshall McLuhan that said the medium is the message. What does that mean? As an artist, I'm trying to, do what's relevant for today and tomorrow. I think an artist should have, and I have antenna, as you can see, and I'm supposed to know the things to come and to spread the news and for people to be aware. I think the scripture, I say always, it's a compass for humanity. If you study it, you shall not fear. If you prepare, you shall not fear. But when people are not prepared, when there's a new era, they panic and then they kill each other. We don't want that. So does art has power? Very few art. Maybe one exception might be Guernica. Why? Because it was done by the genius of all time. So it really has power, Picasso. And at the time of the war, so maybe it had an impact, but did that stop the war? No. Art has no power. Politics, money has power. Art has no power. You could do a show about Sandy, about you name it. It has no power, it has no impact. But what can I do? On a one-to-one, I can do what I believe. Maybe I might touch the heart of one person, and maybe that's good enough. But as a rule, art, it's amazing because art at auction sells for $600,000 million. So that should have power, but not really. It doesn't have power to change the world. Well, I think the art is what endures. I mean, the persona eventually die, and of course you can write book about them, but the art is what remains. Like Botticelli, what do we know? Very few people have seen his portrait, though there are some, but it's the art that's enduring. So hopefully you should do it in things that last, though nowadays that's not the situation. People do land art, deteriorating art, but hopefully my 911, which is made out of metal, the one I have here in my studio is aluminum, but we have some in stainless steel. The one that is at the 9/11 Memorial Museum is aluminum. Hopefully, it can endure the test of time. And of course, if it's noticed, if it has merit, then it will be in the history of art. The 9/11, I'm going to show you this. This is, this is not the one. But anyway, I wrote this with flame. 9/11. I can put it over there. I'm an American. I took the American nationality in 1968. I'm an artist and I'm a New Yorker. Of course I had to do something about 9/11. The question was what? And it was not simple. And I've made some paintings which are here with the building in flame, and people said we can't look at it. I've done some other painting with angels coming to the rescue of the fire. But people say we can't look at that building in flame. And when it first happened, I worked for Salvation Army as counselor of the children, mostly, or the family that were affected. And it was so painful, I just couldn't do it for too long. So I said I have to make some artwork. And I have had many shows about 9/11 with many, many different artwork. There was one here written in Muslim calligraphy, 9/11, many different interpretations. I have some pieces of glass that's broken with the stamp 9/11. But eventually, I refined it and it came out with this design, which I think is just the essence of it. There's no superflu or whatever. So, I mean, many people, many artists have addressed, 9/11. There were many shows every year, there was a celebration. So I had to do it. But I'm lucky that the chief curator of the 9/11 Memorial Museum saw it and loved it, and they tell me it's going to be the star of the show, so I hope. And I don't think they're going to have any other artwork, to the best of my knowledge. And, just maybe lucky. But I mean, I did work on it, I've been investing time, money, I would say during 10 years, and eventually refining it and doing now a little prototype that should be sold at the gift shop. So, again, being an American, a New Yorker, and an artist, we had to do something, and that's what I did. But I love this one, for instance. This is laser engraved in a crystal block. And I like this because, it's there and not there. It's like a phantom. And this is like a little portico. I wish, building would have this and people could enter through this. And this I painted in camouflage. And those camouflage here are very interesting. Those are aircraft camouflage or ship. So when they are, in the ocean, you don't really understand what it is. It looks like wave and you don't know which way they're going. So we just experiment, and some have multicolors. This is metal, this is plastic, and I can't say which one I like best. Oh, one of the best one is actually this one, which is, this one is really well done. This is 5 inch by 5 inch, it's metal, it's anodized, and it's perfectly made. I just ordered 10 of those because this is the last one we have. No, I call it magenta.
Magenta.
Magenta is the color of mourning, especially in Europe. At Easter time, before Easter time, all the churches, all the artwork in the church are covered with a piece of fabric, violet magenta, in sign of mourning, in meaning of mourning. So it's a color of mourning, and I think it's just the proper color, which happens to be my signature. But it should not be black, it should not be white, it shouldn't be yellow. I think it's just the perfect color. I should probably show to you. So this is where the computer was referring to before, the Messiah is the message. This is all about messages. And I love those. It's my old computer. I'm asking everybody if they have a laptop that's not working to send it to me. The computer work is such a masterpiece. Then I just put an angel facing it. And so we each time write it in a different way. I just completed a play called Adolf and Andy, and it's about Adolf Hitler and Andy Warhol. And it's amazing the parallel between the two at the beginning of their life, not at the end, of course. But they have a lot of discussion about art, obviously. Adolf says to Andy, your art is degenerate. Well, to do a copy of a Campbell canned soup, is that degenerate? You answer. But of course the German art at the time was terribly kitsch, and Adolf condemned all contemporary art, so therefore they all came to the US. But that's a big debate. What is degenerate in art? And I think if you go to Miami Basel, you'll probably see, 60% of degenerate art, which is meaningless, demeaning, not uplifting, copies of copies of copies. Very few people have imagination and invent things. I hope, I did not copy anybody with my 9/11. And my self-portrait, again, I refer to that all the time because every artist has done self-portrait, every artist. Oh, yesterday I just saw the Vermeer show at the Frick Museum, and there's a self-portrait of Rembrandt that's out of this world. But what I liked about mine is that it's a global self-portrait. It's your self-portrait, it's anyone's self-portrait. It's democratic in a way. So you had to think of it in this global era that you could do self-portrait that relates to everyone. I really make art for other people. I want people to be delighted by it. I don't spend much time looking into it. No, this is really for other people to experience. And as I said, everyone in the future will be famous for 15 minutes, and everyone needs a self-portrait. Do you have a self-portrait? Maybe not. You need a self-portrait. Furthermore, they're attractive. Everyone needs a mirror also, though I don't refer to it as mirror. People come here and say, your mirror. I said, what? Self-portrait. You know, if you want a mirror, you go to a bathroom shop. But I think they're just so, I mean, I think this is so beautiful. And people seem to agree with me. And I did a performance in Miami in front of a self-portrait, and I asked the people to look into it and to describe what they see as their self-portrait. And it's interesting that at first they just describe, you know, oh, my hair is wrong, oh yeah, my nose and my teeth are crooked. But then eventually I say, well, is there anything else to your self-portrait? So eventually we go into the persona. How do they perceive themselves? How is their life? And really to the soul, to the core of it. And it's nice to see that, you know, sometimes they lost, they don't have an answer, and maybe they could be guided. Or so I think this, you know, capture a persona, a soul, and it's so realistic. If I was to paint a self-portrait of anyone, it would be my interpretation, but this is, you know, forever true to people. So, and now they're very successful. I was just very lucky to get upon this idea to have those frames, which I thought the frame was so beautiful. What do I do with those frames? It took me a while to figure out to have a mirror and then the letter. Anyway, I think art should be, should be sacred as it used to be. And to me this is, because it reflects the soul of people. And let's see, everybody wants this one. And this one is the original, this is the first one I did. And I created the mirror, which I cannot duplicate today. I took a real mirror, silver mirror. On top of it, I pour stainless steel, stainless glass paint, violet. And then on top, I put a piece of glass, like a sandwich. It took months to dry. And that's why it's uneven, and everybody wants to buy this one. But that's why I put a red dot, because this one I am keeping. That's the ancestor of the self-portrait. But just yesterday, I decided I was going to do a selfie. And I thought the selfie, in a way, means self-portrait. And I think that it should probably be well received, because it's pretty much na and apropos. And I'm trying to decide what kind of letter, what kind of font I want, what kind of color, what kind of design. So I'm studying this. But again, that selfie, you know, people spend so much time photographing themselves, and fine, what do you do with it? The question is always, what do you do? You know, people tell me story or report things to me. I said, fine, how does that affect me, you know? And it's not being selfish. I want to know, how do I apply this to my life, to my time, to my friend, or even to save humanity. My father used to say, stop being a Joan of Arc. I always wanted to save the world. And again, you know, I can't save the world, but I can save my neighbor, and maybe my neighbor can save his neighbor. So I think, hopefully, we really have to go back on one-on-one relationship. See, they should have rounded those corners. I wonder if I can do it myself, because it's a little bit sharp. You know, someone could be, I don't know if it's with a file, I could round this, maybe. And you see here, we're supposed to glue this, it should be the same level, so a little bit below, so we have to figure out how to raise it. You know, if we peel this and peel that, which is clear, it's going to be beautiful, but I don't want to peel it because it's going to be shaped. And I love my vanity, because nowadays, this is a celebration of beauty. You know, women nowadays have to do their makeup in a bathroom, sitting on the loo with a bad light, where this is really, you should take your time, you should see yourself, and I think that new series of self-portrait vanity, which is very new, this is still a prototype, is going to be quite successful. I think it's, you know, making art is all about invention. You see how beautiful this is, but you don't want to see that much. So I have to find the same thing that would be very small and powerful.
It makes it look like it's ice.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, this is a bit low, but see, this could be raised, but this is supposed to be one piece, so I don't know that it could be raise much more, but it could be. You know, this is a work in progress. This is our latest invention. So, you know, it's just going back to basic. Who am I, you know, who created me and for what purpose and what should I do? Of course we have to go with the time, you can't ignore the time, but we should not be a slave of the time and a slave of the cell phone, you know, which are not healthy. So I have something in the back that's supposed to wave the whatever electronic or device, and then I always put the speaker because I don't want to have it in my ear, and I really minimize it, you know, always favor the land phone. So technology is great, but you have to be a word of wisdom. How do you use it and what do you want to do with it? As I said, technology can save us or destroy us. We have to make that difference, and we should not be a slave of technology. And it's very dramatic because we live in a technological, scientific era. Therefore, art, to go back to art used to be sacred, and today it's secular. So therefore, you see some atrocity, you go to art fair, and you see horrible stuff, you know, pieces of body. I think there's two kinds of artists, the one that believe in God and the one that don't. Of course, the one that believe in God are not necessarily good, but they have a respect for nature, for what God did, and in their work they would try to enhance maybe what is of creation, rather than the one that don't believe and just cut up everything, cut up people and show bloody things. What's the meaning of it? I hope my art or anyone's art should be uplifting and healing. I had a show many years ago in France in a place called Sophia Antipolis, and it was all about the light. I had painted huge light prism, huge rainbow, and when you entered the space, you entered the light everywhere, even on the ceiling. And people would stay in that room for quite a while because they were happy there, you know. And I'm sure when they came out, they looked and felt better. And that's what art should do, hopefully, should be uplifting.